Stephanie.
And I'm Allison.
And this is Nerd of the Week, a randomly generated fandom podcast.
Hooray!
Hooray!
We're back!
We're back! After a mild hiatus, though I don't know if that's going to interrupt our posting schedule or not, but if it didn't,
well, we've missed one. Sorry.
Dang. Sorry. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry, generator. Would you like to remind everyone what our word is this week? Yay, thanks.
The word of the week is moon.
Moon.
Moon. Moon.
The moon. Okay. So, what do you think Google's definition of moon is?
An extraplanetary body that is in orbit around a planet.
Noise. Google says the moon is the natural satellite of the Earth. Visibly.
Now I have some qualms already, but I'll let you get through.
Visible, in parentheses, chiefly at night, end parentheses, by reflected light from the sun.
Okay. That is a definition of our moon. But there are, like, the moons of Jupiter. That's also a thing. I think my definition is
better.
Leagues better.
Yeah, the natural satellite of the Earth. That band name, call it now. It also, I forgot this one was an option, but it's a verb as well.
Oh, no.
And the first version of the verb is to behave or move in a listless or aimless manner.
Okay.
So like loafing about, but mooning around, I guess.
Okay.
The other one, which I totally forgot existed until I was reading this definition, to expose one's buttocks to someone to amuse or insult them.
To amuse or insult.
Those are the only two options. Amuse or insult.
All right, that's a pretty good definition. I'm amused.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, no. But seriously, my definition for the noun, again, leagues better.
Better. I agree.
They should hire me to write these.
I mean, sometimes you're almost word for word verbatim, and then sometimes
It's better.
It's better because you actually describe what the thing is.
Yeah, I do. You know, I wonder if NASA has a definition for moon. Is that searchable on nasa.com?
I think it's nasa.gov, but...
Well, whatever.
They have the moon, but it's like capital M moon for the lunar moon. Yes, they have very similar to your so they call it natural satellites as well.
Okay.
But it's natural satellites of a large body, planetary body.
Okay, I think I said extraplanetary. Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad that I'm more in line with the experts.
Yeah.
NASA would know.
Yeah, I went to NASA and I went moon, and then it's like the moon, and then it was like see other moons. And then so I clicked that one.
Cool. Alrighty, well, shall we get to talking about
Moons.
what moons are?
Yes,
What
please
be moons?
insult or amuse me.
I might just do both.
Oh no.
Okay, so I am talking about, surprise, surprise, another podcast. It's not a McElroy product, though.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I actually listen to other podcasts, too.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. So this one, it is a podcast called Ghost Honey's Dream Machine, and it is created by a content creator, I would call him. Because he started on TikTok, then he made this podcast, but now he has a book named Tyler Gesa, whose internet moniker is Ghost Honey.
Okay.
So this podcast, it's like a it's like a fictional story that he has come up with, but also kind of sprinkled in with the podcast are like, he's asked people, like listeners, to submit their wild and crazy dreams to him. And sometimes he has like interlude episodes between chapters where he just like reads people's dreams and comments on them, which I think is also charming. But I won't be talking about those because it's not pertinent to the actual story of the podcast.
Got it. Okay.
What's also cool is when he initially came up with the idea, he was going to like hire other voice actors to come and like read the script with him. So there's differentiation of voices and things. But it would always be like he'd get to the day of recording and be like, oh no, I need this voice actor and I didn't ask anybody. And so he would just end up having to do all the voices himself. So he ended up by the end of the podcast doing like 50 different voices or something for all the different characters. And he does them really, really well. Like I think he'd have a career in voice acting. And it's like really well edited. There's like some nice soundscaping going on in the background. And it's quite amusing and also kind of like one of those like cozy fall kind of podcasts or shows. You know how last year you talked about Over the Garden Wall?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that vibe where it's there's maybe a little like weird spookiness happening under the surface, but it's also just like kind of really charming and pleasing on the surface.
Just kind of like that weird space between Halloween and Christmas vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, yes, because he talks about Halloween a lot, but also the final episode ends on Christmas. So absolutely.
Yeah, all right, I got you.
Yeah. Okay, so the plot of the story, he plays himself, but like a glorified version of himself. So it's not like autobiographical. There's little bits that are kind of like thrown in from his life experiences, but it's by no means autobiographical in any sense of the world.
Makes sense.
He Ghost Honey. He's an artist who moved from somewhere in the Midwest to California because he inherited his great aunt's old Victorian home.
Okay.
There's a few little instances where he kind of like talks about his memories of his great aunt, which may be autobiographical in some respect, where he was like visiting this house when he was young and it seems like the rooms would change places. And he, as a little kid, was just kind of like writing it off as like, oh, it's just a big house and I'm not used to it. But then one day he like went to go into the bathroom and suddenly there was like a courtyard with a ghost in it. And he like ran out spooked and closed the door. And his great aunt is like, don't worry about it. Just open the door again. You'll be fine. And so he does. And just the bathroom again. So like weird things happened in the house.
What a chill response. Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Sometimes.
Turn it off and on again and it'll be fine.
Yeah, just reset it. It's fine. So anyway, he had only like stayed at the house for one summer when he was in elementary school, but then he like still kept in contact with his aunt because she was kind of like an artistic person and he went to college to be an artist. And so like they were kindred spirits, I guess. And then when she passed away, she left her entire house and belongings to him. So he moved on out. He realized that he was really lonely in the house. So he came up with the idea of he wanted to create a podcast, which is the Dream Machine. And he like says in the podcast, like, my intention here is that I just communicate with my listeners, you guys, about your dreams, and we'll see where that takes us. However, he always gets distracted during the recording with other things that are happening in the house, which is how the story kind of unfolds.
Oh, so it's kind of cute. Like I like that.
Framing narrative around it to like get what's the story actually.
Got it. Okay.
So
I really like that.
Yeah, it's so cute. Oh my goodness. So the first episode, he's talking about like just kind of introducing the concept, and he's like, and it's kind of weird. Last night, I was reading a book about Japanese tourism because I do plan to go there sometime. But I only got to like the top 10 spots, and I don't know what the best spot to go to is because then my book disappeared and I don't know where it is. And then you hear like a voice that's like this old timey, like the mid-Atlantic accent or whatever that they used to have in the like golden age Hollywood films.
Right.
And Tyler, or Ghost Honey, he says, who are you? And this voice comes from under his bed and he's like, I am the goblin of all lost things and I have your book here. And Ghost Honey like looks under the bed and there's this amorphous kind of blob, but that kind of sort of looks like him. So it's this
dear.
goblin that lives under his bed and basically like just pilfers little things from him. So like steals all his socks and like little like hair ties and this book that he had laying apparently had like fallen on the ground when he fell asleep. So it got stolen by the goblin. Mm-hmm. And Ghost Honey's like, well, what's your name? And the goblin's like, I don't have a name, Sonny. And I don't remember exactly how he gets around to this, but somehow he ends up quoting Shakespeare, where like a rose by any other name would still smell as sweet, something like that. And so Ghost Honey's like, oh, so your name is Rose? And the goblin's like, yeah, I guess it is now.
If that's what you want it to be.
But then the goblin, he's like, so you're making me. I'm sucking your life force with every object that you put down here for me. And slowly I'm becoming you. You're like my mother. So Ghost Honey is now Rose the goblin's mother. And that's kind of like a weird dynamic that they have throughout the rest of the story. So going on, other like strange things happen in the house. One night, Ghost Honey is pondering this little toy owl trinket that he has. It's like a little ceramic owl. And he's just like talking to the listeners. He's like, I wanted to talk about sentimental things. I have this owl. I don't really know where I got him, but he's been with me forever. And I feel like I can't get rid of him now. He like means so much to me, even though he also means nothing. And just like he's kind of like musing on these things. And he hears an ice cream truck outside. He's like, it's 3 a.m. Why is there an ice cream truck outside my house? So he goes down and he knocks on the door of the ice cream truck and someone answers and he says, like in kind of like a fairy kind of voice, very whimsical. He's like, hello there, how can I help you? And Ghost Honey's like, I'd like to buy an ice cream, please. Do you have any of those red, white, and blue rocket shaped ones? And the voice is like, oh heavens, no, I don't have any iced creams. I have sunglasses. And Ghost Honey doesn't know what to do with this. And he's kind of like, okay, so can I like see the sunglasses then? And the fairy says, no. I'm afraid you'll pick one that doesn't suit your face. Let me pick one for you. So the fairy like gives him this pair of sunglasses that apparently looks great on his face. It's perfect for him. And Ghost Honey's like, okay, so how much are these? And he says, oh, well, I don't know. You pick the price. And Ghost Honey's like, like $10. And the fairy's like, how about more? How about that little owl figurine in your pocket? And Ghost Honey's like, how did you know that was in my pocket?
Yeah. Freaking fae shenanigans.
Yeah, fae shenanigans indeed. Oh, we'll get more into that. So the fairy loves this, loves the trade. Ghost Honey has the glasses and he takes them back inside and he comes back to like the recording. He's like, listeners, I just had the most unusual experience and now I feel really bad that I let my little owl go. And I feel like if the ice creams man ever comes back, I need to trade him back. I need to get the owl back now.
No.
So that's like kind of the initial mission here is he has to get the owl back.
Okay.
Mysteriously, in the next episode, something arrives at his door. Like he hears someone knocking on his door and he doesn't go and answer because he's scared. He says, like any sane person, I grabbed a large baseball bat and I hid at the top of my stairs for 10 minutes until I was sure that whoever was out there couldn't possibly still be there. And then I went and opened the door.
Spoken like a millennial. Oh my God.
Oh yes, he is totally a millennial. He's scared of the dark. He doesn't like talking on the phone. He doesn't like leaving his house. He's amazing. So anyway, there's this old cardboard box that like it's a little bit grubby and grimy, but he opens it up and it's full of cassette tapes. And he's like, wow, I wonder what these are. And I wonder why someone dropped them off at my house. Oh, well, better bring them inside. And the next day he goes out to like a thrift store so he can get a working tape player. And he's like, I had to go to 3 different LA thrift stores to find one that works. Which,
oh my God.
Honestly seems like you'd be able to find ones quicker than that, but whatever.
All right.
So he pops in a tape and it's like this weird, like he thinks at first that it's like some like art project, like interactive art kind of thing that's going on. Like someone just dropped off their art project to his door because it's this guy who's talking. His name is Wizard Oak. And he's like, I am Wizard Oak, and I'm the host of this show, Wizard About Town, where I interview the citizens of our magical community of Hazel Grove. So kind of like setting up this whole like potentially fictitious place.
Okay.
The first person that Ghost Honey hears this guy interview is a ghost, like a brand new ghost, who was found wandering in the hazel groves of Hazel Grove. And Wizard Oak brings him into his house, and he's like, all right, so you're new here, I can tell, because you don't really have many memories, but let me feed you some ghost cheese that I've made. Apparently Wizard Oak loves to make cheese. That's his hobby. And so he makes ghost cheese and makes the ghost eat it, and he like says, this will really get the juices flowing and your memories will start coming back to you. And so the ghost is talking. He's like, oh, I remember now. I used to be a shoe cobbler. And we never figure out how he died. It doesn't get that dark.
Okay, understood.
He's obviously a ghost now, so something happened to him.
Right.
But anyway, so he's gonna like hang out in the town until he gets more of his memories back, and then do whatever he does as a ghost, essentially.
Sure. Okay.
So anyway, Ghost Honey back in our podcast, he's like, wow, that was weird. I don't know what this is, but we'll listen to more of these tapes together, listener, and we'll see what we can make of it. As time goes on, he listens to more and more of the tapes. He also gets to know Rose a little bit better, and he like invites Rose out from under the bed, and he's even like given Rose like fresh socks. Like he goes to the store and buys packages of socks just for Rose to have. Which is the right thing to do, because now he's not having his own life force sucked up by Rose. Rose is like becoming his own goblin person, essentially. So he's saving himself, but also nurturing Rose, which is very cute. Okay. And Rose, he like comes down into the like living room, and he learns how to watch the TV. He's never watched anything except like silent or the like silver screen movies before. So he's like amazed at like Netflix and things like that. And he finds out that he really loves the Great British Bake Off. And he like, there's all these like little things that he like one-offs that he says about Mary Berry and Paul Hollywood. And it's so funny.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
Yeah. So that's just kind of like Rose. He's just there, essentially, kind of just company for Ghost Honey right now. Okay. Going back, more of the tapes, we meet a raven named Broderick, who is an immortal raven because a witch cast a spell on him when he was a boy in England, to be turned into a raven and live forever until he finds his true love. Somehow he flew his way across the ocean and ended up in Hazel Grove after like 200 years. And he's like, I used to think I wanted to break the spell, but now I've realized being a bird's pretty cool. So I'm just going to stay like this and stay in Hazel Grove forever. I think my life is great. So just like a new perspective on curses, I guess.
Fair enough.
And then another person that's interviewed is a barter fairy named Maurice.
Okay.
Maurice. And basically Wizard Oak, who's the guy who's in Hazel Grove, he is interviewing the barter fairy, and he says like, so barter fairy, you've caused a lot of trouble here because you've stolen a lot of things from people that they need. And the barter fairy says, oh, no. I didn't steal them. I bartered them. They traded them. They got something that they wanted more. And Wizard Oak says, yes, but everyone says that you put some sort of spell on them, that they realize that they didn't really want to trade the things that they traded to you. And Barter Fairy's like, no, that's just buyer's remorse. They need to get over it. It's fine. I'm not doing anything wrong. Well, after this thing, this recording, Ghost Honey pauses and talks to the listeners, and he's like, that voice, it sounds just like the ice creams man who took my owl. And so it turns out that the Barter Fairy owns the ice cream truck and is now in LA bartering around for things in Ghost Honey's community. Okay. And so Ghost Honey and Rose come up with this plan to trap the Barter Fairy and get the owl back. So Rose, he says, well, here, mother, I have my very first sock that you ever willingly gave me. It means so much to me. We can lure the Barter Fairy here with that, because apparently the more sentimental the thing is, the more the Barter Fairy likes it, because it's able to like suck its life force out of it more.
All right, more Feywild shenanigans.
Yeah. So anyway, they like open up the bedroom window and they like are just like calling out into the night like, hello, we have this wonderful sock here. It means so much. And lo and behold, the barter fairy comes along with his ice cream truck. And they're like, hey, we have this sock that we thought you might like in return for maybe that owl. And the barter fairy, he's like, oh, that's so sweet. And then like there's a voice filter and he's like, no takesy backsies. And it's like very demonic sounding. And then he drives away and they're like, oh no, we should follow him and get the owl back. We don't want the owl to stay with him. This poor little owl figurine. So they like hop in Ghost Honey's car real quick and they like traverse it. The barter fairy like gets up to the Hollywood sign somehow.
Naturally.
And he has this cave behind the Hollywood sign. So they
Is
hike
it even Hollywood or LA if you don't have something involving the Hollywood sign?
Right. And Ghost Honey's like talking to Rose and he's like, I don't know if we're supposed to be up here. This feels wrong. And Rose is like, come on, mother, don't lose hope now. We can do this.
Mother, I crave violence.
Exactly. That's exactly what Rose is. And also Ghost Honey's like, well, what are we going to do once we get into his cave? Like he knows that we're here to take his stuff. He's going to be mean to us. And the goblin's like, don't worry, mother. I'll just bop him. Ghost Honey's like, you're not gonna bop him. And he's like, okay, well, if he tries to suck any more of your life force out, then I'll bop him. So just give me some kind of magic word. And I forgot what the word is that they come up with. But anyway, so they go into the barter fairy's cave and he's like, oh, I didn't expect to see you back so soon. And Ghost Honey's like trying to stand up for himself. He's like, I want my owl back. But this is very hard for Ghost Honey because he's shy millennial and not about to get stronger.
Confrontation is hard,
Yeah. And the barter fairy, he's like gets all demonic again, like no takesy backsies. And something, whatever the trigger word was, Ghost Honey accidentally says. And so Rose bops him on the head with a baseball bat. And the barter fairy disintegrates into a bunch of glitter. But they have his whole hoard available to them. And it has like all sorts of stuff in it.
Sure, okay.
They find the little owl figurine. It was like front and center because it was like the freshest thing that the barter fairy had. They also find a cape that looks wonderful on Rose, apparently, and it embroidered in it says GG as the initials, which Rose thinks stands for Greta Garbo, who was one of his idols back in the day. She was an old film actress.
Yeah, I know who Greta Garbo is.
Okay. I didn't know if you did. Some people don't.
My mother would be very upset with me if I didn't know who she was.
Okay. So anyway, that's what Rose is convinced it is. Ghost Honey's like, I don't think so, Rose, but whatever, fine. A lot of what Rose says, Ghost Honey just like goes along with.
Fair enough.
And then they like sweep Maurice, the barter fairy's glitter back into a teapot. And Rose is like, he's a fairy. He's not actually dead. Let's just take him home and see what happens. So they take the glitter
I
and the
appreciate
teapot
this chaotic
back home.
energy.
It's so good. So they take it all home, and they have the owl back. They're very happy. Another thing that happens, one night during a rainstorm, they get another knock on the door. It's not like so late at night, so Ghost Honey isn't so scared yet. So
it's
he
not
goes
3 in the morning yet.
Right, right. It's like 10 at night or something. So still a reasonable hour for Ghost Honey. So he goes and opens the door, and it's a new neighbor who's just moved in next door, whose name is Victor. And he's like, can I come in, please? And he has like a very like Eastern European accent.
Okay.
And so he comes in and he's like, just talking with Ghost Honey, like, I'm your new neighbor. How's it going? And Ghost Honey's like, well, what brought you here to LA from wherever you came from? And Victor's like, oh, I heard a calling of the heart and it led me here. And Ghost Honey's like,
sure.
Oh, okay. A lot of people try and find their heart here in LA, I guess. And then suddenly Victor's like, you know what? I can't keep this a secret anymore. And Ghost Honey's like,
you've known
what?
him for 5 minutes.
Yeah, like, what are you talking about? And apparently Victor is a vampire. So anyway,
I assumed it like the Eastern European accent.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to soak Ghost Honey's blood.
Okay.
Suck Ghost Honey's blood. There we go. He is a gentleman and a scholar, as Ghost Honey describes him many times, because he is kind of like a scientist, and he's trying to like research like what in this house, because the house is actually what called him. What in the house is causing me to want to be here, essentially.
Okay.
He thought initially that it actually was Ghost Honey's heart that was calling out to him, but it wasn't, unfortunately. Or fortunately for Ghost Honey, I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, could be a little column A, a little column B.
So Ghost Honey like kind of tells Victor over like several different meetings like more and more about the house and about his great aunt, and like he's like, do you think you could help me learn more about the house, because it is a little creepy, like things still happen in the house that are weird. And Victor's like, I would love to, let's do it. And
Say less.
like they spend hours together each night, like tapping on walls and like looking into things, and they go to the library all the time to like look at plans for the house and like surrounding area, floor plans, things like that. At one point they actually stay up so late at night that they discover that the staircase comes to life at night as well. And the staircase has a French accent. And apparently the staircase was enchanted by Ghost Honey's great aunt, because she was a witch, and that's
of course she was.
That's how the house got to be so weird. She was a witch.
Fair enough.
So the staircase, he talks to Ghost Honey. Apparently he's only awake from like 2 to 3 a.m. because that's how his enchantment works. But he's really sweet, really nice. He really knew Ghost Honey's aunt very well. And he says, oh, you know what? Her favorite thing was this apple cake. I'll give you the recipe. You should try it one day. I know she would have wanted you to try it. So he tries making this apple cake. When he makes it, he hears a weird sound coming from the bathroom. So he opens the door, and suddenly it's that courtyard with the ghost in it again that he had seen when he was a child. He's like, oh my gosh, what's going on in here? And the ghost is saying, it's not really a ghost. Victor determines it's not actually a ghost. It's just like a phantom memory or something like that.
Oh, like a ghost echo or something?
Yeah, where it's like the ghost presence isn't actually there. It's just like a memory that like gets reset. And they think the trigger is the baking of the apple cake. Because they think like the memory was made when apple cake was being made, essentially. But
Understood.
Anyway, the ghost is saying something to someone that's like, they said you couldn't go back, so why are you going? What, will you ever return? And like the ghost is very sad, and Ghost Honey's like, oh, she's really sad, I want to help her. And Victor's like, you can't. She's not really here, but maybe we can use what she's saying to figure out who she is and what's going on, like things like that. We'll kind of leave that be for a second. Apparently, Rose, now that he's kind of more of his own person, he wants to be a star. I'm gonna be a star.
I'm living for Rose.
So he's like been rehearsing one-man musicals.
Oh my god.
And he was doing a rendition of Les Mis for Ghost Honey one night, and he had like this big finale at the end with glitter. It turns out the glitter was some of Maurice's glitter ashes that were in the teapot. So they didn't all get picked up and put back in the teapot. So one day the teapot like starts vibrating, and Rose calls to Ghost Honey. He's like, Mother, the teapot, it's boiling over. And Ghost Honey's like, what is going on? It's not actually boiling over. It's just Maurice is reforming. But he's
classic blunder.
You're right. But he's no longer like the real barter fairy anymore. He's like this like miniature version of himself, which he was already small, but now he's even smaller. And he also doesn't have all his memories. So he doesn't remember that he was a barter fairy. He just knows he's a fairy. And so he's just like this little baby. And he's all like, I love moths. Look how they all dance in the light. I want to dance in the light too. And then he like goes out in the yard and collects stones, and he's like, these are all my pet rocks, and I love every one of them. Like, he's just such a weird little guy. And again, doesn't remember he's a barter fairy at all. So it's kind of like safe to be around him now.
Okay.
But we've been listening to more episodes of the Hazel Grove tapes. And at one point, we learned that Wizard Oak has been trying to make a dream-powered energy machine.
Oh, okay.
Which, at one point, Rose says something like, "Oh, Mother, he stole your name for your little podcast for his machine." Like, it's kind of a joke, like, oh, this podcast is Ghost Honey's dream machine, and this guy's making a dream machine. Like, it's very meta. But something happened with the dream machine, and it was too powerful, and it accidentally attracted a dream eater, which is this giant monstrous bird that will consume the nightmares of people to feed off of, and turns into whatever those nightmares are, and then it will then kill people by being that awful thing, essentially. Okay. It's starting to like destroy the town of Hazel Grove, and Wizard Oak has been able to like hold it off by closing down the gates, but it's not going to be gone for long. And so he tells Maurice the Barter Fairy, back when he was still the Barter Fairy in Hazel Grove, he's like, take these tapes, take them somewhere safe and ask for help, and then I'll like give all the instructions of how to get here, but please send help. And so Maurice is allowed to escape while Wizard Oak tries to hold down the fort, and Maurice is the one who originally brought the tapes to Ghost Honey, but he didn't remember that in his new baby fairy form.
Okay.
But they're able to piece it together. Victor's able to help, and they're kind of able to go on this great big adventure to Virginia. And they figured that out because that's where Ghost Honey's great aunt originally was from, was Virginia.
Okay.
Or no, her name was Virginia. There we go. And they were able to piece it all together there somehow. And they were able to find this like giant tree in the forest that is the gate to Hazel Grove, and they find the gatekeeper, because they described in the Wizard Oak tapes that he was wearing a cloak that had GG inscribed on it, and they're like, "Wait, Rose, that's your cape. It's the groundskeeper's cape, so we know that it must be like the same Barter Fairy," something like that. They were able to piece it all together. So they're able to find groundskeeper Giuseppe. They give him his cloak back. They get into Hazel Grove. They came up with this miraculous plan where Ghost Honey took all of the dreams that he'd been listening to from his listeners. And again, really meta again. We're like taking real people's dreams and putting them into this fictional episode. So they're able to like call out the dream eater with these dreams of the listeners, and he eats those dreams, but they were able to tailor them to be like, "Oh, I found a baby bird and it wasn't dangerous at all." But the dream eater like interprets it as being like, "Oh, it was so scary somehow." So it turns into a baby bird. And Wizard Oak had made a potion that would like basically lock it in time forever so it can't change. And they feed it the potion. And so now the dream eater is trapped as a baby bird. It's no longer dangerous. It can't do anything to them. And Hazel Grove is saved. Also, so this is where Ghost Honey realizes that, oh my gosh, Wizard Oak is actually like somehow my long lost relative. Naturally. And so they figure that out because the ghost in the bathroom was married to Wizard Oak's brother.
Okay.
And somehow the brother has disappeared. That's like going to be another storyline that eventually happens. It hasn't happened yet, unfortunately. That's like the next season. I actually don't know when it's going to happen, though, because since Tyler Gase had just released his book, he's like doing a lot of book things now. So he put the podcast on a little bit of hold for a second. But anyway, so that's kind of the next thing. They all go back to LA and are happy in the house. Actually, the Barter Fairy stays behind because he actually is good friends with the gatekeeper Giuseppe. They're not friends to or enemies to lovers. It's like enemies to actual friends. It seems platonic, I'll say.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, so anyway, they hang out. Now the Barter Fairy is a gatekeeper apprentice, I guess. So he stays there, but everyone else goes back. Also, if it wasn't clear, Victor and Ghost Honey do kind of have a relationship after all the time they spent together.
I'm sitting here hoping for the ship.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely there. So it ends on the very last or the last episode, again being Christmas, and it's on that day because Rose had never had a birthday. It kind of came up somewhere where he wanted a birthday party. Okay. And he's like, well, I picked Christmas to be my birthday so I can get double presents. And Ghost Honey's like, I don't know how to tell you that actually means less presents in the long run, but okay.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of the end of the story. And as I said, there's going to be like another arc eventually. But how Moon kind of fits into all of this. At the end of each episode, Ghost Honey goes out on his balcony and he talks to the moon, which he can only do while he's on the property of the house. And so he says, like, hello, Moon. What did you think of the dreams that we listened to tonight? And the moon has like this really like far away kind of like dreamy, nothing bothers me kind
ethereal
of
kind of
voice. And he's like, and he always speaks in quotes and like credits whoever the quote is from. So he's like, oh gosh, I can't even think of a good one. Oh, geez, I can't think of any of the quotes he said now. I'm so sorry. But he's like, I loved the dreams, Ghost Honey. They were so excellent. He also sounds like a little bit sarcastic every single time he talks. Like, it was so cool. Yeah.
So 100% you.
Yeah. You were really brave, Ghost Honey. It was so good. But Ghost Honey, he's like, Moon, you're my best friend. But apparently the first time he met the moon, when he was first as a child staying with his great aunt Ida, he went out on the balcony and he's like, the moon is speaking to me, and he fainted, and then he didn't go back out on the balcony for the rest of his trip there. And the moon was like, fair. I was so sad when you didn't come and talk to me again, but I was always watching over you.
The moon just wants a friend.
I know. Everyone just wanted a friend. It's really what this whole thing is. It's just like everyone wants a friend, and they have this nice little found family, and they're all so happy and content with each other. But yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't really talk about the moon a whole lot, but the moon is in every single episode. He's there, I promise.
He's there, I promise.
But yeah, it's a charming little thing, and I really, really like it.
I'm definitely gonna have to listen to this now. I'm here for Rose and the chaotic energy that he brings to the studio.
And the episodes, they're only like 20 minutes long, and I think it's only like 50 or 60 episodes in total. So like it doesn't take a long time to get through. Very doable. Yeah. Okay. I might even be overestimating it with 50 or 60. It's not very many, but yeah. Okay. You could get through it in like a few weekends. Sure. Yeah.
Stoked. I know what I'm going to listen to on my next longer car ride.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Okay. I have a quote for you.
All right.
My first girlfriend turned into the moon. That's rough, buddy.
All right. That's cool. Not said sarcastically.
Not said sarcastically. If you know where the quote is from, feel free to let us know. I'm sure a lot of people do.
I don't know if I do.
Oh, no. Okay, we'll have to.
Maybe I do, though.
When we get to the end of the podcast, I'll see if you know this medium, because I feel like you should. It's up your alley, and if you don't, we're going to have to change that.
Okay.
If you do, feel free to message us on all forms of social media. I've been kind of lax on social media lately because travels and stuff, but I'm going to get back into it now. But we have Instagram, X or Twitter, if that still exists, unclear, Facebook, Tumblr, and TikTok. Everything is hashtag Nerd of the Week or hashtag NOTWP. And then our TikTok is at Vampire Sheep. Sheep is spelled with 3s. But yeah.
Sheep.
Yeep. I don't know what that noise was. Anyway, who's it? I am bringing a beloved video game to the mix. Beloved.
The beloved.
The Portal series by Valve. Are you familiar?
I have definitely heard of the Portal series. Is this the thing with the cake?
Yes. The cake is a lie. Yes.
Okay.
And it's a German chocolate cake, I think.
Okay.
And the cake is actually not a lie. It does exist. But
it does exist.
the cake does exist. So Portal is a puzzle like platforming game where you are playing as Shell. She is a test subject in the Aperture Science Enrichment Center. And so basically you basically like wake up, you really don't know what's going on, and then this like looming voice starts talking to you, and the voice is named GLaDOS, GLaDOS, and she is an artificial intelligence that was designed to test people using what's called the portal gun. And so the portal gun shoots out two portals, a yellow one and a blue one. Okay. And I'm sure you've seen like iterations of people turning like mirrors and stuff into portal guns, because that's pretty common. And then the portal gun will shoot onto different walls, and then there's like a puzzle that happens with the walls, and then you can like go through one, and then you pop out on the other side of like wherever you are, wherever you place your second portal. And how Moon plays into this is that the moon rocks and moon dust have to be incorporated into the paint for the portals to work. So there's like a magical or scientific, it's not really like in-depthly explained, but some kind of property.
It just is a thing that exists.
It just is a thing. You just need some moon dust, and then the portals will work better, or will work at all. Okay. And so the first game is only a couple hours long. And in fact, it was, when it was on its standalone first time out, people who were playing it, when they finished it, they're like, oh, that's a really cool game. I can't wait for the full version. And they're like, no, that was the whole game, like, because it was incorporating the puzzles and stuff. And that's when they added in GLaDOS. So GLaDOS is this like antagonistic force that makes fun of you the whole time and becomes like the thing that you're trying to get to either like stop or get out of the situation or whatever, to give it that more of a video game feel. Okay. And I love GLaDOS. She makes fun of me. She makes fun of you all the time. She's constantly like calling you fat, or like you're gonna break.
So there's these things insulting instead of amusing.
Yeah, insulting. And like some of my favorite quotes from her are like, "Here come the test results. You're a horrible person. We weren't even testing for that."
Wait, so this is just like a disembodied voice, right?
A disembodied voice. She is actually so she controls the whole testing center, and the whole testing center is underground. I think in Nevada. I'm not really sure. But like some location that has like a lot of empty space, and then there's like an underground bunker that is as big as it needs to be for the game. Okay. And there's some implications that GLaDOS kind of went a little nuts. And so she like took over the testing facility. There we go. I'm getting there. Words. But so she took over like the testing facility, and then she's basically like forcing Shell to go through all these tests, and like the air quote test subjects are supposed to be gone, or like are supposed to be able to go home at the end of the day kind of thing. But like clearly GLaDOS is just like specifically Shell, just testing Shell and keep going. And there's not really any other people in this facility anymore. And the people who are running it, like everything's shut down. It's implied that GLaDOS may have set out a deadly neurotoxin that killed a bunch of people in the testing facility, because Portal 2 gets into it a little bit more, but her backstory. But she was, it's implied that she was the guy who ran Aperture Science's like secretary or assistant, and then her consciousness got like uploaded into GLaDOS. But she doesn't seem like she's mad at him, because she seems to kind of like all the testing and the things that she does. But the Portal 2 gives more of a backstory. We'll get there in a minute. But Portal 1 is you going through these different, more and more ridiculous puzzles with GLaDOS constantly making fun of you and being like, if you don't finish this, then I'm gonna kill you. And there's my favorite is the weighted companion cube. And sometimes you have to pick up these big cubes and like put them on giant buttons to open doors and stuff. And then GLaDOS is like, the weighted companion cube cannot speak. And in fact, if it does speak, please drop the weighted companion cube into the incinerator. And like as you're like carrying it, it starts to like snarl at you, and you're oh no. And there's these little like turret guys that you have to sometimes avoid, and because they'll like show out little lasers, and they're adorable. They're like little, they're so cute. I love the turrets. And then they'll be like, "Are you still there? There you are." And then they'll just like start firing aggressively at you, and you're like, "No, little turret." And then if you like knock them over, they go like, "Ow, ow, 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 ow." I love them so much.
Oh my goodness. So we both have things with cute, menacing creatures in them.
And then so you get through the first one, and for most of the time for the first one, it's just solve the puzzles. There's not a whole lot of plot. There's the I think he's called the Rat Man. I don't remember his actual name, but you never see him, but he's got like scrawlings written everywhere, like the cake is a lie. And that's because GLaDOS keeps like offering you cake for finishing all of the puzzles she has for you. And then he's got like notes written, and then there's like secret areas that he's like broken up the testing facilities open and like made little caves and stuff. So you can see signs of this guy hiding around, but I don't think you ever see him.
Is he like a friend or foe?
He was like he was like Shell, where he was surviving in her testing facilities, and he finally realized like the tests never ended, so he set up a way that he could get out. And then more like he's not antagonistic to the character, but it was more he's looking out for himself situation. And but his clues and stuff help Shell kind of circumvent a couple of puzzles so that she can get to GLaDOS as the final boss. And so GLaDOS is like this big machine that's hanging from like the ceiling, and she is like, when you get to her, she's like, oh crap, and then like releases the deadly neurotoxin out at you, and you have to basically explode her with various like memory cores that mess up her, like they're like corrupted cores that mess up her AI functioning, so that it just takes her offline. Okay. And then so that's most of the first game, and then the second game it takes place so there's a multiplayer campaign, and then there's also Shell's campaign, and both help with the story some more. I love the multiplayer campaign because the robots are named Atlas and Peabody, and they're just adorable, and they like go through a bunch of stuff, but they like get a little bit of the plot too. But with Shell's run through, so she's trying now to get out of Aperture Science and like just get to the surface and figure out what happened and like just, you know, go home. And she has been stuck in there. I think a couple years have passed. Like she's been stuck in here for a good while.
Oh goodness.
And GLaDOS has been like shut down. And at one point, you're like breaking through something, and then you find like the destructed body because you basically explode GLaDOS. And she's like, you accidentally trigger her back alive. And then she's like, oh, hello. Do you remember when you murdered me? And you're like, oh no, she's going to kill us.
Oh no.
And then you there's a new character named Wheatley, and he's one of the memory cores. He's voiced by Stephen Merchant. 10 out of 10. But Wheatley is trying to convince you to hook him up to GLaDOS so that he can take over the facility. And then if you help him, then he'll help you get out. So that's like the first part of the video game is like doing all the platformers, but also trying to find a way to connect Wheatley to to GLaDOS. And then there's also the Space Corps, who all he does, like, he's just like, space, want to go space. I just want to go space, 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 space. I love him. He's completely chaotic energy, and I live for him. And then there's like the mean, grumpy memory core that like is just growling and trying to bite you. But it's just like the memory core is like literally like a spear, and it doesn't really have anything that it can bite you with. But so
it's
the
like
first
a
bit
chihuahua with no teeth.
It is. And then you get to getting Wheatley attached to GLaDOS, and then Wheatley takes over, and then Wheatley is an idiot core, and so he suddenly gets this huge expanse in power, and instead of helping you, he becomes the new villain.
Oh,
and
no.
he's like, no, I've got a test, and I've got to help you, and this, that, and the other thing. And GLaDOS gets turned into a potato. Because it's like one of those potatoes that like has little like wires into it, because like you can make a battery out of a potato. Yeah. And when Wheatley takes over, he like kicks you out, and like you start falling more or less indefinitely. And when you come to, GLaDOS is like, oh, how are you doing? Because I'm a potato. And then she's got a feature that's just the slow clap sound that like, oh, good. That still works. And so she's got like more of a dark humor, and she's like upset that all she is a potato. And so she comes up with a brilliant plan as you're like carrying her through like the back areas, because like the whole place is now falling apart because Wheatley doesn't know how to run this facility. So her plan is to give Wheatley a impossible question so that he thinks himself into like uselessness. But every time she brings it up, she's like is trying to think about it. So every time she says it, she's like, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it. And they finally get to Wheatley, and GLaDOS, potato GLaDOS, gives the impossible question, and Wheatley's so stupid, he's like, I'm gonna go with no. And then like and this is the part where I kill you. And then the chapter title like flies across, and like, this is the part where he kills you.
Oh no.
And it's so tongue-in-cheek, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And then you go through some more puzzles. You get to the end where you're functionally back in like the same room that you defeated GLaDOS in the first game, but now it's Wheatley, and you explode him a couple of times. You manage to upload GLaDOS back into the main computer frame, and GLaDOS is trying to kick Wheatley out, and then because of the explosion, you get a shot up of the moon, and so the moon, you can see the moon, so you take your portal gun and you fire a portal at the moon. And so then Wheatley and all the other personality cores are sucked out into space, and then GLaDOS is able to take over again. And so
is it just a never-ending cycle then of someone taking over and doing testing?
GLaDOS learns a lot about herself, and so she still wants to test, but she's got Peabody and Atlas now. Because through the course of this, like, Peabody and Atlas get made. And so she's like, I'm going to kick you out. So Shell is able to go home. She gets, like, thrown out onto the surface with the companion cube. And then, so Shell's ending is left ambiguous. Like, she's gotten out of Aperture Science. And then GLaDOS gets to have testing still with robots who want to do the tests.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so everyone's happy
ending for all.
Yeah, happy ending for all. And then the post-credit scene is one of my favorite things, because Wheatley is like floating in space, like regretting his life choices, with the space core, who's just like, now that he's in space, he's like, I don't want to go to space. Want to go home. And just like has like these like crazy lines of like, oh, I'm in space. This is amazing. Yes, son, you made it to space. Who is that? I am your father. Dad? Yes. Dad, are you space? Yes, son, I am space. I live for it. And then the game is pretty solid.
It sounds good. Also,
it's very
puzzles. That sounds fun.
It's really good puzzles. They're challenging. Each one has like many solutions, or like there's different ways to do it, and a lot of it wraps around the shooting portals into different things. Like you can speed up, slow down. And the original Portal game, like I said, is only like, I think it's only like 4 to 6 hours long. Like, it's not very long, but it's a solid game and it's super fun.
Okay. Cool. Do you play it on the computer or like how is it done?
You can play it, you can get it on the computer, and I think it's been ported to, like, every version of video games that exist, like,
okay.
But I know for a fact you can get it, like, off of Steam.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think it's, like, on, because I played it on Xbox, but I think you can play it on the PlayStation or whatever. Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, that's Portal.
Nice. Thank you for explaining it to me because I never really knew what it was.
Yeah. I think you would love GLaDOS, if only just for her, like, ridiculous one-off lines. Like, one time, one of hers, remember when I was talking about smelly garbage, lying around and being smelly? That was a metaphor. I was actually talking about you.
Oh.
I think you appreciate the, like, tongue-in-cheek, condescending humor, like the Monty Python style humor.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for talking about that.
You're welcome. Because mine was insulting, apparently, and yours was amusing. All right. Would you like the quote again?
Yes.
Okay. My first girlfriend turned into the moon. That's rough, buddy.
Okay, hold on. I think I know where this is from, but it's not coming to me right now.
Okay.
Can you give me a genre of media?
It is a cartoon.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Marketed as like a kids' cat cartoon on one of those like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network style
it's
channels.
Not Sailor Moon, right?
It's not Sailor Moon.
Okay, I don't know. I'm running out of cartoons, and honestly, I've not really seen many of them.
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah. Oh jeez.
Have you seen Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I've seen a little bit of it, but not the whole way through, so I probably have just missed that episode.
Yeah, it's a little bit later.
Whose girlfriend turned into the moon?
Sokka's. Katara's brother.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
he's talking to Zuko. Or did he just say it?
No, she legit turned into the moon. To be fair, she was died as a baby, and like the moon spirit resurrected her, so it left a part of the moon in her, and then when the moon spirit was getting attacked, she like reconnected with the moon to keep the moon spirit alive.
Okay.
It's the whole thing. But
makes sense. Okay.
And like she was a willing participant, like she knew what her job was, and she wanted to do it. Unfortunately, Sokka was in love with her, and then she died. And he's talking to Zuko, who has like no way how to respond to this, so he's just like, "That's rough, buddy. Yeah, there. Don't be crying."
Oh no.
It's a very, very good show. I highly recommend.
Yeah. Oh, sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
So now what?
Now the generator.
What?
The generator.
Amuse or insult me.
Well, I feel like the generator is going to say something rude here.
Is the generator our GLaDOS?
Oh, 1000% the generator is our GLaDOS. Eventually she'll just run the whole podcast.
Jeez, I hope not.
I am not amused, but don't let that insult you. The next word is legend.
Legend. I already have my quote, but I have no idea what I'm actually going to talk about.
I already know what I'm going to talk about. I'm excited. 10 out of 10.
Hooray! Hooray!
Hooray!
Well, I'll have to think real hard. And we'll come back with something. I'll always talk about something.
That's true. We will bring something and we will talk about it. And if you want to hear what that is, feel free to tune in next time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Generator, for a word. We appreciate it. And I hope we amused you and didn't insult you. ?
Oh my gosh. I just thought of something that I really should have talked about for this episode. Yeah. I should have talked about Despicable Me.
Oh, you should have.
Because he shrinks the moon.
He does do that. It's very, very good and very, very big.
I'll talk about it for something else, but
we'll find it.
I love that movie.
It's such a good movie. It's so ridiculous.
I don't like the Minions. I've never seen the Minions movies, but I feel like I wouldn't like them. But I do like Despicable Me.
I agree.
Okay.
I think that Minions are like the dead horse that have gotten beaten enough that they're just out there all the time. But the actual Despicable Me movies are hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Well, eventually we'll talk about that. One of us, probably.
Probably.
Not for this next one, though. I don't think we could fit that in.
No.
Maybe we could.
Maybe. It'd be a stretch, but I think maybe.
Real stretch. But anyway.
Anyway, thanks for listening to our podcast and us rambling about the 3 versions of Moon. And I hope we amused you and we didn't insult you, because I'm going to use that joke one more time.
Yeah.
And if we gave you a sensible chuckle or you enjoyed it, please share with a friend and get another friend to join us in the podcast crew. Because that's how podcasts grow. Podcasts grow.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Those are how words work. And as always, I have, in fact, been Stephanie.
And I have, of course, you know it, been Allison.
And we will never, ever be a pyramid scheme.
That's a promise.
Goodbye.
Bye.